Order. I will call Martin Vickers to move the motion, and I will then call the Minister to respond. There will not be an opportunity for the member in charge to wind up, as is the convention, for 30-minute debates. Order, order. Martin Vickers to move the motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Vass. It's always a pleasure to serve on the committee when you're in the chair, so good to see you. I beg to move that this House has considered headlight glare. I know that I'm not alone in believing that modern headlights on cars can be too bright, causing discomforting glare for motorists and potentially increasing accidents. And I know I'm not alone, as many of my constituents have made their views known following an article in my local newspaper, the Grimsby Telegraph, which detailed the findings of a study by the RAC. I'm sure this is an issue that successive ministers have been aware of and considered, but I have to say that I'm disappointed that no action appears to have been taken. And so until recently, when the government decided to commission an independent study into the issue following a public petition, and I hope that by bringing this matter before the House, a meaningful series of exchanges with motorist organisations, road safety campaigners and others will follow. Yes, I happily give way.
Commend the honourable gentleman for bringing this forward. I suppose back home was a big issue for many of my constituents when they observed what they refer to as one-eyed monsters come over the hill. These new visual headlights, which seem to have almost like a searchlight quality. But there's another issue, and does the honourable member agree? It's essential that learner drivers also learn to drive in the dark, and for newly passed driving licence holders, learning where to look at night when a car is coming towards you can be very overwhelming. And perhaps maybe there is time, and there should be within the driving licence application and instruction that people do, that this particular issue of nighttime driving is taken on board. And does the honourable gentleman agree with that?
I thank my honourable friend for that intervention, and yet he makes an extremely valid point that nighttime driving is very different to normal daytime driving, and perhaps consideration should indeed be given to whether that should be a part of the driving test. It's a statement of the obvious that vehicle headlights are crucial in enabling drivers to travel safely in the dark or under poor weather conditions. They are required to identify signs, bends, obstacles and road users, pedestrians in particular, making the vehicle itself visible to others. Over the last 20 years, however, vehicle lighting technology has changed rapidly from halogen to HID to LED, and I appreciate there are slightly different technologies, but if the House will allow me, I will use LED as an all-encompassing shorthand for the various alternatives. In general, LED vehicle headlights are advantageous in terms of sustainability and drivers' view of the road ahead, but they do cause problems as well. While I intend to focus on high-intensity headlights, it is worth highlighting that dazzling tail lights, front and rear indicators, fog lights and reversing lights may also cause glare concerns in various situations. Dr. John Lincoln of Light Aware explained that although the human eye can adapt to a wide range of light levels from bright sunlight to almost total darkness, it cannot adapt in a short space of time. Comfortable vision requires a limited range of light levels at any particular time. LED vehicle headlights are much bluer and brighter than the halogen headlights of the past. Halogen headlights are usually around 3,000 lumens, but LED lights are commonly double that, with a colour temperature of 6,000 kelvins, much bluer than those of halogen bulbs. In January, the RAC published the results of research conducted with 2,000 drivers. They found that 89% of drivers think that some or most vehicle headlights on the UK's roads are too bright, with 74% of those saying they get regularly dazzled by them whilst driving. What's more, it has probably not gone unnoticed that there are a lot more large cars on the road nowadays. SUVs sit high off the ground and are particularly likely to cause glare. Around 6 in 10 drivers of conventional vehicles blame the higher angle of SUV headlight beams. All of this ought to suggest that vehicle headlight design needs a rethink. While the hazard caused by headlights is primarily due to unregulated luminance and blue wavelength light, as existing standards largely predate modern vehicle designs, some may argue that it would be best to simply enforce the Highway Code Rule 114, which states you must not use any lights in a way which would dazzle other road users. Personally, I would show caution here. Much of this issue is down to new supposedly intelligent technology which largely takes control of the headlights from the driver. While the driver can override the technology, it can be difficult to know when to do so. I would much rather see this resolved by fixing technology rather than punishing motorists who may be unaware of the issue that they are causing. Not to mention the fact that it would be practically impossible to police, as we know officers cannot be on every corner. In built-up areas, sleeping policemen's speed bumps cause oncoming vehicles suddenly to angle upwards, frequently shining their headlights directly into the eyes of oncoming traffic. Similarly, a driver properly in control on a dark country road can see vehicles approaching and dip their full-beam headlights, even if other vehicles is around the bend or over the brow of a hill. Matrix lighting systems, LED headlights made up from multiple units and portions of the lamp can switch on or off automatically depending on road conditions, but they don't have human anticipation and only switch off when they directly sense the oncoming headlights, which can be too late to avoid blinding the oncoming driver. Having set out to raise the issue, I consulted with a range of organisations such as the RAC, the College of Optometrists and Light Aware, who have done their own research into the matter. I also point to the noble lady, the Baroness Hayter, who has been campaigning on this in the other place. All of them told me that this is a very real issue for all motorists, but particularly for those over the age of 60, around half of whom, according to the College of Optometrists, have early-stage cataracts in one or both eyes, which makes drivers even more vulnerable to glare from bright headlights. Light Aware report that as a result of headlight glare, many drivers are restricting themselves to driving in the daytime and purposely avoid driving at night. The RAC's study found as many as 14%, that's more than 1 in 10 drivers aged 65 or over, find glare so much of a problem they have stopped driving at night. This has two primary impacts. One, the individual is less able to get out, less flexible to make medical appointments or see friends, leading to increased social isolation. And secondly, it reduces the number of reports into the issue of headlight glare, making it appear to be less of an issue than it really is. Data from the United States shows that up to 15% of accidents are caused by glare from headlights, making the Department for Transport's stance to date, frankly, exhibiting something of a state of denial. DFT have stated that their statistics showed little or no contribution from dazzle on collisions. This, despite the fact that official government data shows that since 2012, there have been an average of 279 collisions a year where dazzling headlights were a contributory factor. Of these, 6 were fatal collisions. Given that many are no longer driving at night to avoid the problem, the figures would almost certainly be higher if these people were indeed to travel after dark. The DFT's stance is also unfounded, given that I'm not aware of any research having been undertaken by the department. I'm pleased that is due to change once the independent study gets underway, and I hope that the Minister, when he responds, will start by acknowledging the problem and expand a little on the department's plans for this research. The Minister will be aware that others have done their own research already. The Royal Society for the Prevention of Accidents states that between the ages of 15 and 65, the time it takes to recover from glare increases from 1 to 9 seconds. Travelling at 30 miles an hour, that equates to travelling 13 metres for a young person and 117 metres for someone aged around 65. At 60 miles per hour, this would equate to an older person travelling 229 metres. Imagine the potential damage travelling 229 metres while visually impaired could cause. Plainly, this is not just a problem that UK drivers are reporting. I've mentioned the case of the United States. Similarly, a number of RAC equivalent organisations around the world have conducted their own studies and reached the same conclusions. Organisations in Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, Norway, Austria, Switzerland, Slovenia and Bosnia-Herzegovina are finding the same results across Europe based on substantial levels of response from their club's members, who are calling for effective measures to substantially reduce glare caused by road vehicles. I make this point to highlight the scale of the problem. However, I do trust that the Minister won't present this as a reason why change is not possible. The UK can certainly play a part in addressing the wider issue, but this is also something we can address alone using our own laws and regulatory frameworks. A group chaired by Baroness Hayter produced a report featuring contributions from drivers, light experts and consumer champions. They reviewed information from optometrists, medical experts, transport research and European specialists made under a number of recommendations to government, a number of which I put to the Minister directly. Firstly, yes, I'll happily give way.
I thank the Honourable Member for giving way and commend him for this very timely debate. He will be aware that the results of that investigation resulted in 44% thinking that dazzle could be caused by badly aligned headlights. Would you agree with me that there's more that MOT centres across the United Kingdom could do with regards to that and ensuring that lights are aligned adequately?
Yes, I thank my honourable friend for that intervention, and I was coming on to mention the MOTs, and so it was a timely intervention. The first point I'd like to make is that, put to the Minister, is that he should bring together car manufacturers, the lighting industry, eye care professionals, neurologists, driving organisations and other interested parties to gain a broader understanding of the problem of headlight glare, to understand its true causes. Secondly, direct the National Institute for Health Protection or another suitable body to sponsor research to establish how vehicle lighting is causing discomfort in drivers, other susceptible individuals and other road users such as cyclists and pedestrians. And thirdly, use the research to develop set realistic safety standards for vehicle headlights and other vehicle lighting and outlaw those that don't achieve these standards. Fourthly, set legal limits for the amount of blue light that vehicle headlights can have in their spectrum by setting standards for their colour temperature. Fifthly, and this is the point that my honourable friend was making, provide garages undertaking MOT tests with guidance and training on how to recognise inappropriate aftermarket installation of LED bulbs and to ensure that such cars fail their MOT test. The sixth point I'd like to make, Mrs Vaz, is to raise the matter internationally via the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, Working Party 29, and request the informal working group on glare prevention be revived. Two things are clear to me. First, car headlights should be better regulated to reduce the dazzle. They cause oncoming drivers, the dazzle they cause oncoming drivers. And second, it is not sustainable for the government and the car industry to say there isn't a problem when the vast majority of motorists know that there is one, not just here in the UK, but around the world. So, Minister, are you going to do what 8 out of 10 drivers tell the RAC they think you should do and take action to reduce headlight glare? The RAC think that the Minister will probably reply to say that the UNECE has agreed that all new vehicle models introduced from 2027 will need to have automatic headlamp levelling systems. Yes, certainly.
Thank the member for giving way, and in doing so, I thank him for securing this debate this morning. But just on the point, vehicle manufacturers are tied to 4,200 Kelvin temperature of light that is supposed to be legal, but you can retrofit bulbs up to 6,000 Kelvin heat. So there should be some legislation to ensure that those are addressed. I know that whenever an MOT, and I put a car through an MOT last week, when it goes in, they just check to see that the lights are both lighting and that they are aligned within a certain parameter. But it does not tell you the temperature of the light, just to ensure that those who are selling lights, and if you go on to eBay today, you can buy headlights for your car with for 6,000 Kelvin heat, and I think those are illegal and they're not for road use, and it should state that on the seal, but many of them don't state that, and that's part of the problem.
I thank my honourable friend for that intervention, and he makes the case that I previously mentioned, that there needs to be more regulations about other than just the simple MOT test as it is at the moment. The problem of glare is affecting people now, with drivers holding on to their vehicles for longer. It's going to be well into the next decade before any benefits, if there are to be any, are seen by road users. The 2027 date only applies to new vehicles, so if a current model isn't due to be replaced until several years after 2027, it will only be this point when these specific vehicles are fitted with this technology. The RAC is not aware that new lighting technologies like LEDs have actually been analysed in deciding automatic headlight levelling systems as the answer to glare. So, Mrs Ross, I hope that the Minister will give a positive response and say that the Department are indeed going to take this much more seriously than has been the case in the past. Thank you.
Brown.
Thank you, Mrs Vaz, and it's wonderful to serve under your chairmanship. And might I start by congratulating my honourable friend, the member for Cleethorpes, on securing this very timely and indeed important debate about headline glare. And just to cut to the chase, he asked me a question, and the answer is yes. But I feel I'd better expand a bit more. I know this is a real issue, not only because I am a driver myself and I notice the glare, but I get a huge amount of correspondence from members of this place and indeed from constituents about it. And I spend a lot of my time as a minister answering letters about this issue. So it is a real issue, and it is something that the department has done quite a lot of work on, which I will come to. And it's been a very interesting debate, and a lot of interesting points have been raised. I'll just start out by just saying a couple of words about road safety in general. That the UK does have some of the world's safest roads already, as international statistics show. And we do take road safety very, very seriously, and reducing those killed on the roads. I'll very happily give way.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Well, according to the latest figures in my area of Leeds, there was 1,585 personal injury collisions in the last year. Now, for too often, I'm sure right across the House people agree, we contact our local council highways and they won't even look at putting speed cameras in due to accidents with speeding because they want an accident to happen first. Does the Minister agree with me that we need to look at new ways to actually prevent accidents and save lives?
Mr Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I thank the honourable member for that intervention. I agree, we absolutely need to be proactive, and I'll take away her comments and, in fact, write to her on that point. The government has committed £185.8 million allocated to local authorities via a Safer Road Fund to improve the safety of 99 of the most high-risk A roads. And more widely, the Department is supportive of driving generally. We launched the Plan for Drivers in October last year, setting out 30 measures to help driving and help the concerns of drivers. Now, glare from headlamps is a perennial issue. It's been around for a long, long time, but there is a compromise between providing illumination with sufficient intensity and the distance to enable drivers to see and anticipate potential hazards in the roads, and the propensity to cause glare for other road users. There is clearly, as the honourable member recognised, there's a clear balance to be had there. And to strike the right balance, all vehicle headlights are designed and tested to follow international standards developed, as the honourable member referred to, under the United Nations rules to ensure they're both bright enough to illuminate the road ahead, but don't affect the vision of other road users. And these standards define the beam pattern and include maximum and minimum light intensity. So light intensity is both down on the ground, up at this level, what you would see at driver level. The rules include the colour of the light there, that is also regulated. And these rules are actually neutral on the form of light, so they apply to LED lights as much as to halogen lights or any other form of light. But we know, as I mentioned, that lots of people are raising concerns about headlight lamp, and we're told, and I know this from personal from friends and relatives that drivers do choose not to drive at night because of the effects. But one of the challenges the department has, which the member referred to, is the police collision statistics don't indicate an increase in accidents caused by headlamp glare, although the concern is very real. So the actual figures, and Baroness Hayter, who the honourable member mentioned, has been writing many questions to me, which we've been answering about this, that actually in 2021 there were 208 accidents where dazzling headlights were cited as a partial cause of the accident. That's actually down from 2005, where it was 373. We actually have the statistics for Cleethorpes, which I thought the honourable member might be interested in, that from 2013 to 22, so the last 10 years, the number of accidents where dazzling headlights were cited as one of the causes is actually 5 over the last 10 years. That's obviously 5 too many, and that doesn't mean that the statistics are perfectly accurate. The honourable member cited some statistics from the United States. I'm not sure about their methodology, but also there are clearly lots of things where glare is problematic anyway for drivers for all the reasons that he mentioned and discussed. But the department hasn't been inactive on this. Over recent years, the Department of Transport has raised the issue at the United Nations International Expert Group on Vehicle Lighting, and following lengthy and significant negotiations, proposals to amend headlamp aiming rules were agreed in April last year, together with requirements for mandatory automatic headlamp levelling, a system which automatically corrects the aim of the headlamps based on the loading of the vehicle, for example, when passengers are set on the back seat or there is luggage in the boot. At the moment, and I know the honourable member referred to some of this, but at the moment some cars have headlamp levelling which is manual, but very few drivers actually know to set it. So when somebody sits on the back seat and the car lifts up slightly, they won't dip the headlines a bit more. And the point of the automatic levelling is that it will correct that. But as the honourable member mentioned, these new requirements are only expected to take effect for new vehicle types from September 2027. That is necessary to give vehicle manufacturers time to redesign their products and incorporate those designs into the manufacturing process. Vehicle manufacturing is a very long lead time industry, and it's basically impossible to make instant changes. But once these changes are implemented, these tougher measures, they hopefully will help alleviate the number of cases where road users feel dazzled by vehicle headlamps. But there's still much that we do not know about the underlying causes, and the honourable member mentioned many of these things, and this is in the department we accept that there's an awful lot going on here that we don't really know about, and that's why we have commissioned the research the honourable member knows about. I accept personally from the volume of correspondence the concern about headlamp glare is rising, but we don't really know why it is. The honourable member mentioned that older drivers are more susceptible to dazzle, which is probably true, and the number of older drivers is growing rapidly. The number of people over 70 who are still driving has risen by 50% in the last 10 years. Driving has got easier because of power steering and automatic cars and a whole load of other safety features, and people feel confident to drive later in life, even though they might be more prone to dazzling. There are things like road humps, for example, as the honourable member mentioned, a cause for dazzling as the car lifts up over the road humps, and I'm guessing there are a lot more road humps now than there were 10 years ago. Various honourable members mentioned the issue of retrofitting. There are rules on retrofitting. I mean, it is illegal to retrofit a more powerful light bulb that's illegal, or a light bulb that's a different colour. And I suppose the question there is whether those rules are fully enforced or not, and that's certainly one of the things I'd want to find out through the research. So the research we're looking at, we'll be commissioning it shortly. So this debate is very, very timely, because it is exactly now that we should feed into the thinking about the scope of the research. And the honourable member for Cleethorpes made a lot of really interesting suggestions about the sort of people who should be consulted and involved in that. And I know officials will be noting everything he said and will be taking it on board. But the research that we'll be commissioning to try and understand the root causes of driver glare will include real-world trials to test the impact of different light technologies under different scenarios and driver and vehicle characteristics to fully understand what is actually causing causing this and how significant it really is. And we very much welcome input from relevant experts in the area and those taking part in this debate. So once this research has been completed, the government will, of course, consider the outputs fully and share those in the UK and with international lighting experts, as the Honourable Member requested. And once we have that research, we will then look at whether there need to be any other changes to rules and regulations. And indeed, that will then be, we will make sure that is discussed at international level. But we will do everything we can to make sure that to reduce the problems of driver glare and make sure that our roads are safer, ensuring people can continue to drive for as long as it's safe for them to do so. And I personally am determined that the only people in the constituency of Cleethorpes, the only way they should be dazzled is by the wit and wisdom of their Member of Parliament.
The question is that the House has considered road safety and headlight glare. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. Order, order. The sitting is suspended until 2:30 p.m.
The proceeding has ended. 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 The proceeding has ended.